Good gaming morning to you. Whether you're tossing dice, flipping pages, stroking that butt, or mashing those buttons, we have your six on all things gaming. My name is Mike Smith, and to my right, as always,
Eddie Jakes.
And we have some exciting news for you. Now, we've been doing a guide lately, and as a matter of fact, last week we just finished up with the Wizard
Magic
guide.
just dropped.
Yep, for Palladium and for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. And we actually have been talking about this other system out there, Delta Green, and we threw some feelers out there, and we snagged one. We got ourselves a fish, if you will.
Someone fell for the trap.
So we'd like to introduce you to Vince from Black Project Gaming. You can find him on Twitter at Black Project Gaming, as well at blackprojectgaming.com. They have all kinds of really cool stuff for you guys to go check out. Vince, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate you having me.
Oh, we loved it, man. Absolutely. Like I said, when we first threw those feelers out there, we didn't know what we were going to get. You know what I'm saying? This, like you said before, we originally came across this game, and we've played Beyond the Supernatural before, and it kind of felt almost like a...
The Palladium hasn't been supporting it.
Right. So it's like...
And the book they put out is half finished, in my opinion. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to put this on hold. I'm going to do the zombie game for a little while.
And it seems like that's what Delta Green kind of is to it. So for us and for our listeners, why don't you break down a little bit of what Delta Green is?
Absolutely. So to the best of my knowledge and the best of my recollection, right? So Delta Green kind of started as an attempt to solve the problem of why these investigators from these various disparate backgrounds would come together to investigate the unnatural, the Cthulhu mythos and everything else. What's keeping these people together? What's bringing them together and keeping them investigating this stuff? Because after a certain point, normal individuals would be like, I like you plenty, but it's not worth it.
Right.
The physical and the mental costs are too great. So they created this agency, or not so much an agency. It's more of a conspiracy, right? So the whole concept is after the 1920s, after the raid at Innsmouth. And if you're not familiar with Lovecraftian fiction, right, there was a story called The Shadow over Innsmouth, which essentially related or revolves around these deep ones in this community in Massachusetts that was eventually raided by the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Coast Guard, the Marines, kind of wiped it off the map. So the idea was, once the U.S. government became aware that the unnatural existed in whatever many forms there are, they were going to investigate it. Not only investigate it, but suppress any knowledge of its existence, because the mere knowledge that this stuff exists has a corrosive effect on the collective sanity of society, of people in general, right? So it started off as a legitimate government organization, and this is kind of getting into the lore a little bit. So it started off as a legitimate government organization in the 1940s. It was under the Office of Strategic Services as a psychological warfare division. That was its cover, specifically going after the Nazis who were looking to exploit unnatural mythos-related technology and knowledge. But then eventually in the 1970s, while they were operating in Cambodia, something went horrifically wrong, and there was a lot of blowback. And so the program, the Delta Green security clearance, as it was called, was disbanded. And then the group decided, just because the government doesn't want us to exist anymore doesn't mean we shouldn't. This is a fight that still needs to be fought, a war that still needs to be waged. So they went underground and became a conspiracy within the United States government, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And so throughout the 90s, when Delta Green first came about, that was the core concept, was that this was an illegal government conspiracy consisting of people from all over the government, even outside the government, who were brought together specifically to not only investigate the unnatural and things like, deep ones and other, mythos-related entities, but to keep that knowledge from spreading out. And then enter, the late 20-aughts, right, or 2010. I think it was 2016 when it first came out. They rebooted the franchise. Arc Dream Publishing, the publishers, got together and launched a very successful Kickstarter and essentially updated the concept in the game by bringing it back into the official government fold, right? So a lot of that is still, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, a Kickstarter is great for a lot of things, and to bring something, that's usually what Kickstarter is really good for, is bringing an idea to the table. And usually these people that don't have the fundage can reach out to people and make this, happen, and make this.
Helps you find an audience without risking a bunch of money.
I like how you said that. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was huge for them, right? Because Delta Green was originally published by Pagan Publishing, which was run by guys like John Scott Glancy and Dennis Detwiller. But the Kickstarter enabled them to kind of form Arc Dream Publishing and start pushing out this material. And so far, they've published the handbook, the handler's guide to scenarios. It's been great.
So this is a D20 system. Is this a what's the format on the system?
Yeah, so it's a D100 percentile based system, kind of like if you've ever played Call of Cthulhu or anything using the basic role playing system.
Nope, not at all. That's why
you're here.
Right on. Yeah. Dope. Okay. Yeah. So essentially it's a D100 system, right? So like me and my group, we play on Roll20. So, but at a table, it's 2 D10s. One is going to be your 1 through 9. One is going to be 1 through 100.
The
all
10s.
that stuff.
Right.
Yep, the 10s exactly. Yeah. So the point it differs from 5e and your D20 based systems in that when you have a skill number, right? So say I've got a 70% in firearms or search or something like that. I have to roll under that amount in order for it to be a success.
Right. Almost like the Palladium skill set.
Yeah, it's like the Palladium system, similar with skills.
Yeah.
And that's how the attacks and everything also run?
Yep, that's how everything attacks, how defense, combat, sanity, all the different mechanics in the game operate. Is essentially you'll have a target number, whether that's dictated by your skills or your attributes, and you'll have to roll under that in order for it to be a success. So it's not like you've got a DC or like an armor class you got to beat.
Right.
So say you've got your agent who's getting ready to shoot somebody else. As long as they roll under their firearm skill, it's a success.
Okay. And then they would have to then defend against that, or their armor would defend against that, sort of say, and they'd.
Yeah. So the way combat works in Delta Green, right, is you'll have let me look here. You've got like 6 different actions you can take or something like that. So you can aim, which is essentially you take a moment to you sacrifice a turn.
Right.
Exactly. Just like a called shot. And that was the other thing that my players had a tough time adjusting to, is that in combat in Delta Green, you can do one thing and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not like you've got an action, a bonus action, and movement.
Right.
You really can only ever do one thing. Yeah. So you can aim, which gets you a 20% bonus to an attack on your next turn. You got the attack itself. A called shot, which is actually a separate thing, right? So that helps you negate cover. So if they're behind partial or majority cover, that helps you get around that. You can disarm. You can attempt to take a weapon away from somebody, dodge, escape, fight back, move, pin, and pretty much anything else that would take a few seconds in combat.
Cool. So that's all set. And then say, is there like durability, armor, etc.? And obviously, if you have firearms, you got to have body armor or police type Kevlar and stuff like that. Correct?
Yeah, exactly. So there are different armor classes. So you've got like your basic concealable Kevlar vest, and you've got everything up to full blown plate carriers, military grade. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that as opposed to making it more difficult for you to be hit, what it does is it negates some of the damage. So if I'm wearing a certain type of armor and I get hit for however many hit points, that will subtract a certain amount. So that way it could actually mean the difference between living or dying.
Right. Exactly. Kind of like rolling with the hit.
Exactly.
Like you get hit, but you're rolling with it. Gotcha.
Nice.
Yep. But yeah. Let me find an example here.
Absolutely.
Some of the body armor.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So let me see if I can find that here. All right. Bear with me just a sec.
Oh, you're good. Absolutely.
No, it's fine.
That's really cool. I like that. So everything is a straight up 100 a D100 system. That is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're wearing a reinforced Kevlar, it's got an armor rating of 4, and so what'll happen is, say somebody rolls a 7, that means you only take 3 damage.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's permanent. So that doesn't take anything away. That would be a permanent minus. So it'd be after that round, if you get hit again for 6, it would take 4 away. You'd only take 2. It's not like
Exactly.
the damage takes it down. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And of course, there are some instances where if you're, if fighting an unnatural entity where it could have a corrosive effect and you lose your body armor, there's a scenario called Viscid where that is a very real threat where if it makes contact with you, it'll corrode your clothing and your armor and it will no longer be able to withstand that.
Oh, so then it does technically break down at that point.
It can. Yep.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, some you don't consider. Usually it's like, oh, just save versus acid and you move on. And it's like there's a lot more to it than that.
Right.
So I like that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I mean it's pretty much safe to assume that this is almost like a Hellboy type of campaign in the sense that you're a government run under the government, though, if I'm not mistaken how you said it. Like you were one time at government, but now you're kind of under the government, but you still are fighting what's the things that quote unquote go bump in the night. Right.
So the way I would describe it is Hellboy is a good initial comparison, but it's a lot less pulpy. Right. So Hellboy is extremely pulp-like,
yes,
two-fisted, jam a revolver in the mouth of something, pull the trigger, blow its head off.
Right.
Delta Green is very, very much definitely not pulpy. Pulpy, I don't think will ever be used to describe Delta Green. So, for example, my players in my game, we've got folks from all different walks of life. We've got, at this time, we've got a military federal agent, we've got a forensic pathologist, we've got a marshal, and a psychiatrist. And the idea is that these all people were at one point in time exposed to the unnatural, and this program decided that they would be of use in future investigations, and so brought them in. And so what will happen is, say you're playing an FBI agent, your agent will get, could ostensibly be tasked to go someplace else under official government orders, and when they get there, they find out this is an operation for Delta Green.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Oh,
yeah.
I that's nice.
I was noticing that too when I was watching. I'm like probably halfway through the first actual play there. There's a lot of like people you wouldn't expect to be in a type of game like that. A lot of technical stuff, science stuff, and it seemed very, very story driven. Yeah,
so like Victor, one of my players' characters, is a by day he is a computer scientist, programmer, white hat hacker, but he's also a budding drone pilot. So he uses a lot of those skills quite a bit in the field, and that's what's great. There's a whole lot of different professions that you can pick from, and you can even create your own if you needed to or if you wanted to. And as long as this is somebody who's been exposed to the unnatural, and they were able to, and that's the other thing, right? So if you wanted to start a campaign or a scenario where these people aren't even aware that the program exists, that Delta Green is a thing and that the unnatural is real,
right?
You could play through their whole recruitment. These are people who are just getting exposed and just learning that these things exist. And then
I'm doing that with my Dead Rain campaign coming up.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So similar concept.
Spoiler alert, Mike.
I know.
Nice.
No, that's it's a really cool setup. I really like where they're going with this. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. And the idea is that I won't get too heavy into the lore, but if you pick up the Handler's Guide, you'll see that there are actually, spoiler alert for those who may not be aware of this, there are technically 2 Delta Greens that are in existence, and that could drive your gameplay. That could drive how your players approach your problem. That could drive the kind of characters they play. It's kind of like people like to joke it's an easy mode and a hard mode. Yeah, but it's really just kind of it depends on what kind of tone you're going for.
Actually, we were in one of the past episodes. We spent a good time talking about the game systems and how, with the exception of Dungeons and Dragons, nobody has a basic set, and the basic set is actually very important. So that's good if they have like more of a stripped down version than the main game. Use the word advanced,
right?
Right. That's good for players because I think more people get overwhelmed by the rules and by what's involved that they tend to walk away from the game.
40K has been doing that a lot too. They'll come out with like these simple rules to kind of get you
games,
right
stuff
to
like
get you into the game. So once you get playing, you're like, "Ooh, I really like what this is doing. Let me go forward with this more." And I think people are starting to see this, and I think people are starting to get that. And as gamers, that makes it more fun for us when you can just jump into a game. And we also understand, though, a game like this, a game like Delta Green, where it is a percentage system, is going to have those rules where they're going to be difficult and take some time getting used to. But to get the original fun of it, to get that original hook, sort of say, and get you involved to make that tougher character, that's what I think more systems need to do.
Absolutely, and the way it works is so with the joking easy mode, hard mode, right? So you've got one Delta Green that's referred to as the program, and this is the one that after 2001 was brought back into the government,
right.
And so you've got official resources, you've got access to authority. You can still use your badge and not get in trouble unless you're using it for actual like illegal shit.
Illegal shit.
Yeah. You have access to a lot more resources. But then you've got this other Delta Green, right? Which is the people that didn't come in from the cold. These are the people who are still out there as part of this illegal underground conspiracy who are like, no, working for the government means more chances of exposing people to the unnatural and more chances for this knowledge to spread. We're going to stay underground and we're going to keep doing what we've been doing since the 90s.
That sounds like that's my team right there.
I was going to say, it seems like that's the scrupulous team right there.
and you're not far off, right? And that's the thing. So with them, you're using cover identities. You don't have access to official resources or money or finances. You're essentially on your own. Like you'll get your mission. That's about all the support you're going to get. Once you're in the field, you're on your own. You're expected to
kind of like supernatural mercenaries.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yep.
Find your stuff, fight or flight, man. that's
exactly. Yeah, and the other big thing that separates Delta Green from games like D&D and everything else is the big part of it is the sanity system, right? So the sanity system is phenomenal, right? The best way I can describe Delta Green is what makes it fun is failure. It's not so much victory and winning and leveling up and getting experience. The most fun happens when the dice don't go your way and when you start losing sanity and start breaking down in the field, right?
That's cool.
Because what happens is as your players are getting exposed to these various unnatural threats, they're taking sanity hits. And you'll have to deal with things like temporary insanity. Where if you lose 5 or more sanity in a single roll, your character goes into fight, flight, or freeze mode. They either fight the nearest threat, they freeze, or they run away.
Run their faces off, right?
Yeah.
There used to be, I don't know how long you've been gaming for, but Ravenloft, when it was huge, was really good about doing that. The fear rolls and the horror checks.
The evil checks.
And the evil checks. And I think that was one of the first things that really introduced, say, the psychosis of a game and what that much evil can do to a character. And I love that they're doing this. I love that. That's such a great idea.
I still maintain that desecrating that corpse was necessary to solve the case. So what you did was wrong, man.
Still an evil power check, buddy. Still an evil power check. So this other game, the Call of Cthulhu, which is also uses this D100 system. Is this associated with the Delta Green in some force, or is this kind of like the other world, almost like a Rifts and TMNT to Robotech and Palladium? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the way Delta Green started off as a supplement. To Call of Cthulhu, yeah.
Okay.
So Call of Cthulhu primarily was set in the 1920s, but Pagan Publishing introduced Delta Green to bring it into the modern era and this conspiracy type setting. So it used the Call of Cthulhu system, it used all that, but now it is its own separate thing. It is broken away from the Call of Cthulhu brand and become its own independent system, but it still uses a lot of that. It still uses H.P. Lovecraft and his fiction as the core for the various threats that you're going up against, and the overall cosmic horror type setting.
Where do you pull a lot of your story from? Where do you obviously they have to have stats for certain monsters or certain demons or whatever. Where do you personally pull your inspiration from? Yeah,
so Arc Dream has put out a lot of scenarios. So And so lately, actually, since we started the podcast, I've really only been sticking to the already published stuff, right? So the scenarios will have all of that already built out in there. You also have the handler's guide, which will have a lot of the other mythos entities in there that are built out, statted out, everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, it's really just using the existing material, the handler's guide. But then there are guys I know at the Night at the Opera subreddit who can they just build things on their own, and they can come up with some phenomenal stuff. So really, once you get a good idea as to how various different entities are built out, you can start doing it on your own, no problem.
Nice. You got.
Well, I just want a side note there. There used to be a little history between Dungeons and Dragons and the Call of Cthulhu people, because they got a lot of trouble for publishing some of those mythological creatures, and there was like an ongoing. Remember Demons and Demigods? I think it was.
Yes.
Oh, yep.
There was like a lawsuit between TSR.
Yeah, they ended up having to stop using certain demon names.
Yeah, they took them out because they had published their game first, I guess. And so there was a lot of like history that now I guess they just change the names, call them something else.
Yeah,
it's essentially the same stuff.
It's like
exactly, yeah.
Well, I bet,
and they stick with like the public domain stuff from Lovecraft, and so that's they can avoid that.
Well, that was the big fight. They were trying to say all this stuff was public domain, I guess, and it really wasn't at that point.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I was going to say
I don't really know so much about it.
How can you consider a demon not public domain? I mean, I guess by the name, if it's specific to like an area or a specific, I don't know, religion, then I guess you can't mess with it. I don't know.
Well, Lovecraft had a really demented mind.
Well, yeah, I know, but a lot of his stuff was also
came up with a lot of
mythological.
Stuff.
You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of like stuff that comes from mythology and stuff that he also utilizes. Yeah. So this is like, to me, that would seem like it would be common, knowledge and whatever.
Well, the thing is, and this is what happens with most role playing companies. So there's probably, we'll say, millions of players, but maybe 500,000 DMs or GMs or even lower. So they're the ones that typically buy the books. So you only got so many people buying the books.
True.
So when properties step on each other, they're going to go at each other's throats.
So, Vince, take us through a character creation setup, if you will. One of the things, obviously, D&D, I think, has been really good with the character creation lately. They have a lot of apps that actually help you with that. Palladium, we just had a Palladium role-playing, a character party, if you will.
Or session 0 last night.
And it was like,
nice.
2 hours of rolling up characters. So bring us through. Break it down a little bit for how a Delta Green character is created.
All right, yeah. So starting off, like with any other game, the first thing you do is you determine your stats, your attributes. So Delta Green uses strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, power, and charisma. They go from 3 to 18, 3 being the worst, 18 being the best. The main ways you can determine your stats, there's really only 2. You roll kind of the standard 4d6, drop the lowest method. Mm-hmm. And then you can assign. You divide 72 points among the 6 stats however you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of...
And then once you get those built out, you do what are called your derived attributes. So your hit points, your willpower, sanity, and then your breaking point. The breaking point is that point in your sanity where once you reach that, you develop a disorder. And that's a permanent disorder.
A permanent?
Yeah.
So it's like the evil power thing we were talking about in Ravenloft. This is something that sticks with you forever.
Yeah.
Yep. So, for example, one of my players, they've developed insomnia, and so in order to get to sleep every night, they have to make a sanity roll, and if they fail, they don't sleep. If they succeed, they do. So,
wow.
So what kind of penalties do you get for that if you fail? So, like, if you don't sleep the day before, and then hey, we got to go in this spooky house per se.
Yeah. Oh man. So you'll actually be at a penalty to all of your rolls at that point if you haven't slept, and you start burning willpower. Mm-hmm. You'll be, I think, at like a negative 20% to all of your rolls.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm playing around.
Yep.
So
it is not friendly at all.
So then you pick, you choose from there. You go on from your different classes that you have.
Yeah.
And then obviously from the classes, you would get your skill bonuses, etc., and so forth from there.
Yeah. So the Agent's Handbook, and I believe the Need to Know rule, the pay what you want rules on Drive Through RPG, they list out a couple of the professions. It'll tell you what your recommended stats are. It'll tell you what percentages to put into your skills based on that profession, and then how many bonds you get. So bonds are important, and they're a cornerstone of the game in mitigating your sanity loss. But not just that, they lead to some really, really amazing role play scenarios as well. So essentially, what will happen is, in order to offset some of that sanity loss, you will begin projecting onto your bonds, and essentially, what will happen is you'll make some rolls, and you'll deduct a certain amount from your bond and from your sanity loss. And what is essentially happening is your bonds with these people, your spouses, children, friends, are eroding away.
Wow!
Over the course of time. Yeah.
Wow, that's a good thought process. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, and it's some amazing potential in the game.
Yeah, I did notice, like, a lot of your players, when they were talking about their characters, they had some pretty detailed backgrounds, family life, that kind of thing. I was like, oh, interesting. It's not
that would obviously
not
be
something
the reason,
we tap
that would be
into
the reason
a lot.
why. Yeah, it seems like that. It seems like it's a very psych-induced game. It seems like it messes with the player almost as much as it messes with the character.
100%, absolutely. Because it forces them to make some really difficult decisions, not only as a player but as a character, right? Do I want my relationship with my wife or my husband to completely break down to the point of that bond is broken and I lose that person in my life, or do I need to kind of should I project onto my partner at my day job today? Stuff like that.
Right. That's a really. I think far too often, and this is the biggest thing about D&D that I think we lose as players. You're heroes. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, stuff like that really doesn't play into a campaign too often. Just like you said, you very rarely hear about a hero's background or his family, or if it does come in, it's usually tragic. Something about his mother, he was killed and he's trying to avenge them. There's always these big stories about heroes. It's what it always breaks down to. And these guys are heroes, but it seems like they bring more of the person of being a human into the game.
Yeah, ordinary people dealing with extraordinary things.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a really cool way they do this, man. Really cool way to do this.
Yeah, it definitely, like you were saying, it plays up that the ordinariness of these people. And the one thing that I do try to drive, especially with my players when I tried to sell them on this initially, as we migrated, we were primarily playing D&D 5e, and then I introduced this to them and really threw a grenade into the pit.
Yeah, I could see that, dude.
Yeah, they're not heroes, right? They don't know anything, and this game is very nihilistic in that over time, what the realization that should be setting in, both for you as the handler, for your players as the agents, is that mankind doesn't matter. Nothing you do matters. Nothing. You will never win this fight. Eventually, these things are going to come through, and they are just going to flick us off like a tick.
Yep.
We are just. One of the best quotes in the book is something like, "We're ticks boiling on a mote of dust in the cosmos, right? And we are inconsequential. And the knowledge of these things is, of course, going to drive you insane because you're finally realizing your true place in the universe."
Yeah, biggest line out of I love still to this day, Men in Black is, if you tell one person, they can take that, but if you tell a group of people, they turn into mindless animals, and that is the absolute truth. Vince, we're gonna take a quick break, real quick. Gotta go our little commercial break, and we'll be right back. And welcome back. Vince, we were talking right before the character creation, and you brought up, and this was another question that I wanted to ask you, that you guys were a big 5e D&D playing group, and you kind of threw this grenade in their lap. And how did they originally take it? The group itself, were they kind of put off by it, or did they kind of welcome it with open arms and say, like, let's do this,
They really welcomed it with open arms. They were the group that I've been very fortunate playing with is absolutely phenomenal. We got together in 2017 on Roll20, and let me tell you, the first game we started playing was a very grimdark, horror themed D&D campaign run by our good friend Jack. And so we already were kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Indoctrinated into horror gameplay.
Right. Yeah, and that's a hard thing to capture, man. It really is, especially in the D&D world. It's so hard to bring a little bit of fear into a character that is pretty much untouchable with the feats and some of the abilities that they have.
Yeah, and Jack, our DM, pulled it beautifully. But at the time, I was looking for something 5e, and I mean, it went well enough, but it wasn't really clicking for me. And Delta Green was always a campaign and a setting that I'd been interested in since the 90s when it first came out, and I never really had an opportunity to try it. So when the new books came out and I started digging into them, I really threw the idea out there. And of course, the biggest adjustment is playing powerless people, in an unforgiving and kind of indifferent universe.
Yes.
And you don't have powers, you don't have abilities, you're not a magic user, and really you'll be lucky if you get a shot off before you get killed. And so that was the biggest adjustment. But my group, for the most part, they're very big on role playing, not role as in rolling dice, but role playing as in
their characters.
The drama.
They feel their characters, they become their characters. We as GMs and DMs, we obviously give experience points for playing your character better, because it just, when you play your character, everybody around you becomes more. I love when they talk in third person like their character, and they really take on the persona of that character.
Yeah, absolutely. And this kind of game is I think is built for that.
Absolutely.
And it's been great, and they embraced it with open arms. They learned the system, and we've played. I think we're on our fourth scenario so far, and it's been going great.
Would you say it's a difficult system to kind of pick up if you are a heavy D&D player?
I don't want to say difficult. It's definitely an adjustment, right? In a lot of ways, but it's definitely not difficult. It's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. I mean, really, you look at your sheet, you see that you've got a 70% in persuade. You want to persuade this person to do something, you just roll under that. So there's no roll modifier stat or anything. So it's pretty simple in that respect. Combat was the biggest adjustment for me too, as a handler. Learning, getting used to that only one action per turn kind of thing, and some of the modifiers you can add for certain actions. But once you've run through a few combat scenarios and you really pick up on it, it's smooth sailing from there on out.
Yeah, I like how they're called handlers too.
Yeah,
everybody has their little call of what the game master is, or the teller is, if you will, and I like that.
I want to definitely give a shout out to other people playing this game, because I check it out online and they're dressing up like FBI agents.
Yeah, I did see that video.
Yeah. The handlers are wearing these black suits and sunglasses. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, no, it brings that element to it. It brings that what is it? The feel, the ambiance. You know what I'm saying?
I really feel, and I tried to do this with Beyond the Supernatural, because first edition Beyond the Supernatural I thought was awesome. Second edition could be awesome if they actually cared about it. It's just being honest. Being honest.
Yeah.
But would you say that this game is gaining in popularity because, like, with the lackluster performance of, say, the X-Files, people are hungry for this kind of entertainment now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. It scratches that itch, right? I mean, there are people who love the Cthulhu mythos. They love Lovecraft. They love this cosmic horror. And, the idea of playing the people that gaze into the abyss, right, is always going to be alluring to a certain respect. And I think what separates Delta Green from a lot of other games in similar genres, Dream, nobody does it better than Arc Dream, as far as I'm concerned, right? Their mentality and their approach to the business has always been, it'll be done when it's done. And they push out quality versus quantity.
That's how you get the best ones, man. Make us wait for it if it's worth it.
Palladium's the same way. They just don't tell you that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But guys like Shane Ivey, the editor in chief over there, Dennis Detwell, director and one of their chief creators and authors, they're upfront with it. They're like, look, this is going to take time, but when we get it to you, it is going to be ready. It is going to be great. And
it shows.
Hit the mark.
It shows, honestly, even if I never pick up the dice and play a game of it, just owning the books, man, those books are beautiful.
Gorgeous. Yeah. The art, I mean, Dennis Detwiller doing the art is not phenomenal.
That's what
great.
got me. When I saw that cover for the first time, I was like, Delta Green, what is this? I've never even heard of this. And then I started kind of dipping into it, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. This is weird, but it's incredible. Like, it's so different, but it's incredible.
See, I'll grab a good book if the content is good. Even if I never play it, I'm like, this is great just to sit and read, because there's a lot of great books out there that you can just sit and enjoy. But yeah, we definitely want to try this.
Just like we said, we had a really strong itch and a craving when we were doing the Beyond the Supernatural, and they never gave us anything more.
There was a lot of promises, like this is coming, this is coming. We're like, yes.
And it's like, this seems like that's what this is, and what it's supposed to be, and what it's should always have been. You know what I'm saying? I love now. So as a handler, when you do come across some of these psychosis and your players are on that brink and on that edge, what's more satisfying for you as that storyteller, so to say?
As you mean, as like whether or not they
well, when they break down, when they finally do break down.
Oh man, it's seeing how they play that out. It's seeing how they kind of just they throw themselves into that role and how play it out. It's not just a mechanical thing, but seeing how that manifests in their actions in the game is enormous. Like, you get a character that's megalomaniacal, right?
Yes.
And forget about it. It's beautiful when it plays out.
So it's almost kind of like, it's like you guys kind of like symbiote together. It's like the handler and the player work together to make this beautiful wreck.
100%. That is exactly it.
That's really cool. I'm looking really forward to checking this out.
I've never wanted to play a game where I would go insane so bad before.
I know, right?
I'll be like, can I roll the table now, please?
So Vince, why don't you take a couple minutes and explain what Black Project Gaming is, so people can check you out and see some of the information and stuff that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. So Black Project Gaming is a role-playing podcast, one of countless others out there. But one of the things I wanted to do was take Delta Green, bring it into, have another consistent podcast broadcasting that content. Because there are a lot of Delta Green, maybe not a lot, but there are some Delta Green podcasts out there that do a great job of
storytelling.
Showcasing the material. But for me, as a handler, the tone was wildly inconsistent, right? And some kind of inevitably devolved into the fraternity jokes.
I'll agree with
that. Yes.
Which, listen, I get it. When you're dealing with such dark subject matter, you got to have that release valve. Mm-hmm. But for me, the best part of Delta Green is the tone. Is when you can maintain that consistent tone of dread and terror and just walking into the unknown, unequipped and ill-prepared. I wanted to do something that would really showcase that more, and I knew with my group I could do that. So we started Black Project Gaming, and just as a hobby, and started pushing it out there. I got two of my friends on board. I got Jack, who was running that other D&D campaign I mentioned,
the horror one. Yep.
Yep, and you've heard it here first. He's actually going to be starting a new campaign here soon, which is a 1980s take on Curse of Strahd in California, 1980s. Yeah. So we are looking forward to that.
Cool idea, actually.
Is it in Nakatomi Plaza with Bruce Willis playing Strahd? Or?
I wish. I wish.
Hans Gruber would be Strahd.
Hans Gruber, yes. Okay. Hans would be
Strahd. It's called Brovia, California. We're looking forward to that.
That is really...
I never thought of that because he doesn't die. And
you're going to be putting that on the Black Project Gaming's website?
We will. Yeah, we definitely will.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm definitely looking forward to that. And our other friend... I was going to say, who's the third compatriot you got?
Yep, Doug. Doug is another one of our phenomenal DMs, and he's been running Dragon Heist, which has been absolutely fantastic. And I believe he'll be diving into Dungeon of the Mad Mage after that.
Nice. It sounds like you guys got plenty of content coming up here, man. That's absolutely fantastic.
Your games, are they mostly on Roll20, or do you have your own group in town, or how's that work?
Yeah, we're all Roll20. So for me, I'm active duty military. I've been in for 16 years.
Thank you for your service. Thank you very much for your service.
Not at all. I appreciate it. But the only reason I say that is because it's very difficult to find a consistent.
Oh, absolutely. No, we know. It's hard enough. So, it's hard enough in everyday life to try to get
forget about
games going, you know? I mean, my God, we only game once a month and it feels like it's pulling teeth sometimes getting people in the same table, you know?
Yeah, I've been staring at Roll20 wanting to do something, but then I adopted a puppy, so it's going to have to wait.
Yeah, good luck with that one, man.
Yeah. That's worth it. But yeah, it was kind of just luck. I mean, blind luck. This group got together on Roll20. We started playing this D&D game, and we've been gaming together, the same group, ever since 2017. So it's been phenomenal.
That is good. It's so hard to find people that vibe with you so well and gel like that. And when you do, it's a beautiful thing. It is. We've been gaming our group for 18, 20 years now.
Us together, getting close to 30.
Yeah, almost. I was gonna say, me and you are about 30 at this point. Yeah, but you just there's just something so right about gaming with the right people, and it brings out so much in the storytelling. I can't tell people this enough. Like if you come into somebody's game and you're just listening, but you've never played the game, but it gets you excited about it, that's a good group right there. That is a solid storytelling group, and that is what every table deserves to have.
Amen. Yeah, couldn't have said it any better myself. That's perfect.
And that's really glad that D20 does this, allows this to happen. I mean, because it's like almost like Xbox. It's a crapshoot. You can either get a completely salty moron, or you get what you have. You know, a great group of guys and gals that just want to act out this great game. You know. Yeah.
Roll20 has been a godsend. In these days, I mean, we're really using, Dragon Heist, of course. If you need maps, the amount of content, not to plug Roll20, but the amount of content they have on there now, and the integration of the Wizards of the Coast material and the ISO material is phenomenal.
I recently, actually last year, got that Map Forge program, and I love it. That free to use map. Yeah, that's I mess with that every now and then. Every time I do it, I'm like, I can really do some Roll20 here. Or I looked at Fantasy Grounds, but that looked way too complex for me, and everyone else has to have it. And it's like, I don't see how this could work.
So
Roll20 is super simple.
Give us one of your favorite moments from Delta Green in any of your campaigns. One absolute moment that just stood out above the rest to tell the world, look, Delta Green is the real deal, and here's why.
Oh man, okay. So spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't read it or has either not read the scenario or played it. But Viscid, one of the scenarios there, Brett, one of my amazing players, essentially realized that. So here, I got to do some backstory. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. That's what we wanted.
Yeah. Long story short, the group is hunting down this thing, which is essentially the reconstituted, reformed genetic material of a deceased lieutenant from the Air Force who died in the 1980s and returned as this hulking monstrosity that was seeking to reunite with its family. Because even though he was dead, his genetic material lived on in this substance that was being used in experimentations. And so over the years was just going insane. Yep. Just insane and immaterial. And now all of a sudden is alive again, spreading this infection and looking to reunite with his wife and child. They set up an ambush for this thing at his former home in Montana. And of course, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. And they were going to start dropping if they weren't careful. The whole idea was to lure this thing into the house and turn all the gas burners on, blow it up, burn this thing because fire was super effective against it. And of course, the thing managed to get through the house and back outside without any of that happening.
Oh, no.
Yep. But my player, he was playing an FBI agent named Gus. He had been infected with the infection and was pretty close to death, and realized he needed to get this thing back in. So he lured it back into the house, fired his shotgun, blew it up, and saved the day at the cost of his life.
That's awesome. You can't ask for anything better than that, though. I mean, heroic death, saving all those people, and then otherwise everybody else is going to get croaked scenario. That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful, man. Vince, is there anything else you want to plug out about Black Project Gaming?
I just would say, if this stuff sounds interesting to you, check us out. Blackprojectgaming.com. We're on iTunes. We're on Spotify. This is very much just a hobby thing, and we really just want to take time to highlight some really good content, whether that be Delta Green, Dungeons and Dragons, whatever else is out there. So check us out. If Delta Green is something you dig, check out the Green Box podcast. They're another phenomenal podcast out there. A really knowledgeable, really squared away group of guys who know the game inside and out and love talking about it. Check out the Night at the Opera subreddit, and you'll have more content than you know what to do with. So
nice. All right, give me one word to describe Delta Green.
Terrifying.
Love it. Beautiful. I absolutely love it.
I was hoping for.
Yep.
Vince, thank you so much for your time. Thank you to Black Project Gaming for all the information that you guys give us. I got to tell you, definitely got a little bug on the back of my neck right now. I'm super excited about this. I love the way you explained it to us. Man, thank you so much for coming on our show. I can't say thank you enough.
Hey, thank you, gentlemen. And let me throw this out there. Players want to try out a scenario on Roll20. You guys just want a quick down and dirty one shot to get used to the system. Let me know. I'll run something for you guys.
Nice. I appreciate that. That's awesome, man. I'll have to sign that up, man. Perfect. Vince, thank you again. Thank you to Black Project Gaming. Go to blackprojectgaming.com. Check them out. They have some great content on there, people. And once again, man, thank you so much. And you have yourself a fantastic day, man.
You too, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. And if you folks want to try Delta Green for yourself, it is available on Amazon. We'll have links below, and it's available on Drive-Thru RPG and PDF. I'm pretty excited.
I am too. Great job. Yeah, this is fantastic. Thank you once again, Vince. Have a great one, brother.
You too, guys.
I can't tell. This is great, man. This is one of those freaking, I love the psychosis. I love the psychosis, man.
Everything we tried to do before, they're pulling it off, and they're supporting the game. I see new books all the time.
That's the hardest thing.
They're pumping out the product.
When I was doing that for Ravenloft, that was one of the hardest things, was to get that terror, to get that feel in there. You know what I'm saying? It was so difficult, and it seems like they actually have a really good system to make this super effective, and a good way to do it also. Firearms, you roll under the thing, obviously per, every level you get your percentages up and stuff like that. But like just the way he said it, one word, terrifying. It makes me excited to want to check that out, man.
Well, that about wraps it up. I am Eddie.
I'm Mike.
And this is Basement Quest. We will see you next week.
And we hope you guys really enjoyed this in-depth look at Delta Green. And we hope that you guys will also check it out. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit that little bell, so when we hit that screen, it's up in your face.
Good night.